What you been up to today?
Well, let me tell you, Nick. I went for a walk before,
Oh,
and a couple of things happened.
okay,
Um, Number one, saw a pigeon with a limp,
okay.
which really
That's
is quite
rare.
a bummer.
That's rare to see because pigeons, traditionally considered a bird, quite often up in the air. You wouldn't know if they had a limp when they're in the air. So
Most of the pigeons that I know spend a lot of time on the ground.
you see more ground pigeons, do you?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't see a lot of pigeons flying. They're
How do you
kind
think
of
they get
lazy. I
around?
think
Well, I suppose sometimes you do
they
see
waddle.
pigeons take the subway. Have you seen that?
No, I've seen a pigeon eat at Subway, but I haven't seen it take the subway.
Yeah, they probably that's the main audience for Subway these days. I think is
If you're a
birds and
pigeon,
other feral
Subway is
animals.
right up there for
Yeah.
restaurants for you. But yeah, it really put a dampener on my day. I woke up with a lot of energy this morning, and that really bummed me out, because it just sucks. It already sucks being a pigeon. And now you're a pigeon with a limp.
I don't reckon it
I
sucks
mean,
being a pigeon.
you
There's
don't think
food.
it sucks being a pigeon?
No. Okay. Think about your various birds, right? If you had to pick between being like a rare owl and an eagle, and the eagle like only eats a certain kind of prey, and you have to go hunting for it, and you're stuck in the woods, and you got no friends around, or you had a choice to be a pigeon, and you're like with your friends in a park, people are bringing seeds to you, and you're just like walking around, getting real fat, eating anything you want. There's food everywhere, and you're with your buds all day, every day. You're living it up. This is peak bird life.
Yeah, that's not a bad point. Although I would take being the rare owl, I think, in that scenario, because if owls are
That's so
solitary
elitist.
animals,
That is so elitist.
elitist.
You think you're an eagle? Well, let me tell you, buddy, you're a pigeon like the rest of us. You're a pigeon
I'm
limping
saying
around through this world like the rest of us.
no. You switched the game. You said, "What would you rather be?" And I said, "An owl."
I know, but you think you only want to be an owl because you think it's like more morally pure or more like aspirational or more like philosophically interesting to have this kind of uphill struggle. But let me tell you, mate, pain isn't interesting. Contentment is where it's at, right? You want the inner peace of being a pigeon, squatting around, picking up shit, sitting on statues.
Being an owl is way more philosophically interesting. You're right. Um, Also, like, here's the thing about like other rare animals that I've wondered. You see these like birds of paradise in the rainforest,
Mm.
in the Amazon or whatever, and there's like only a handful of them out there. How do they know that they're the same species as, like, if they see a potential mate walking along in the woods and they're like, oh, that's another one of me? I think if I was one of those rare birds of paradise, I'd be thinking I was a monkey or something. Like, how do you know you're like that specific? Are they just picking up on pheromones or like scent and stuff? Because I think I'd be very confused if I was a rare animal.
Well, if you're a male bird, right, you did grow up with a mother of that species, so you know what the other sex looks like already. And if you're a
Sure.
female, I don't know, is there a dad bird around sometimes, or do they sort of just go off and do their own things?
Most of the dad birds are off
Well, I mean, I think then
in
it's probably
casinos.
the reality of the animal kingdom that the girls don't have to go looking for the guys. The guys will fucking they'll try and pull their shit on the females whenever they spot
But
one.
But the thing is, they don't have any sense of self awareness. Like, they don't know what they like. How do you know what you are? I'm a person and I barely know who I am.
Yeah, but you know what you're attracted to intrinsically, right? Animal instinct.
Yeah, but I'm confronted by it on a daily basis. If I was in the jungle, and I had grown up like Mowgli and was raised by wolves, I would probably be attracted to wolves or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like that if you're Mowgli and you still see like you're age 17 and you stumble into a camp with humans and you're like there's a girl, I think some part of that brain's still going to kick in and be like, "Oh, hello."
Okay.
Ladies.
Hello, ladies.
Hello, do you like my loincloth? I can climb
Ooh.
trees. Is that cool? Come meet
Yeah,
my
I
bear.
like I like the idea of this person that's been brought up without any human contact going, "Oh, hello, ladies," as the first thing that it says
In
in the
English.
jungle,
Yeah, the first line he ever has.
and then it's like, "Oh, that's I have no idea where that came from.
is that
This is
this is a real
primitive."
nature versus nurture thing because that just came out of me and I have no idea where. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, the pigeon was a bummer, but then get this, I got stuck behind a dog with dreadlocks as well, like one of those
What?
shaggy dogs. It had
Yeah.
really long.
Oh, but it was all
I don't know what
matted.
kind of. It was all matted,
Oh.
and it's like intentionally done, but it
Oh.
looked like a mop.
Wait, it was deliberately dreadlocked.
Well, I imagine it
It
was
wasn't just
because
like because of a lack of care that it's just got all like gross and fucked up. It looked like
is that
even
how
and patterned.
dreadlocks work? You just let it go and it becomes dreadlocks.
Oh, I'm not an expert on that. I feel like there is an aspect to it where once it's been in a position for ages, it does start to kind of just I don't know, like
Yeah.
the lack of washing or whatever after a certain amount of time causes it to like clump together. I don't know. I'm just making this up. You can get like
You're
if
not a
you
dreadlocks expert.
I'm not
Okay.
if you don't take care of your animal though and they're like dirty and like you don't tidy them or wash them or take care of their coat, then they will get like knots and tangles and all kinds of shit. But are you saying it was very even? Like, would you say that it had been done, or did it look
It
like
looked
they were?
intentional. It had an owner walking yards ahead of it, which was kind of annoying because this dog was just zigzagging all over the footpath. Hence why I got stuck behind it. Um, and the owner didn't look like you'd expect like a dog with dreadlocks to have an owner with dreadlocks, but she just looked like a Karen-y kind of woman.
I don't know. Well, then
But
maybe it just
it was
sounds
very
like
confusing.
yeah. How do you get stuck behind a dog though? I mean, you're so much bigger than a dog.
Zigzagging. I'm scared of stepping on it. And it was just like zipping all over the footpath. It had no like spatial awareness. Very annoying. Anyway, the end of this saga is this that I went to a cafe. I never buy my own coffee these days. Try and save money, Nick. Especially in this economy. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a coffee because I'm out of coffee at home, and I'm going to treat myself.
Yeah.
Guess how much it was for a coffee? I get ice long black.
Ice long black, regular milk. Oh, long
No
black,
milk.
long black, ice long black. Uh, just a normal size.
I mean, I got the biggest size. I'll show you. It's right here.
Okay, ice long black like that. And it's Melbourne. I'm going to say it costs $7.
Very close. 680.
Yeah.
Can you believe that shit? I could have bought a lettuce with that. Topical.
And I mean, that's the best alternative. If you can't get a coffee, the best thing to wake you up in the morning is some iceberg.
Isn't that crazy that like lettuce is more expensive than chicken now? Like that's an insult to chickens. Like
Yeah,
if
it
I
is
was a chicken,
crazy.
I'd be like, that's fucking rude.
Yeah. You know what I
I'm
saw
a
the other day, which I always thought was backwards, was that chicken thigh is more expensive than chicken breast these days. And I reckon
yes.
historically, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that thigh was looked down upon as the lesser of the desirable chicken cutlets. And so you always had to pay more for chicken breast. But it seems like it's flipped now.
Well, yeah, I've thought about this recently too. Chicken thigh is, I think amongst the mainstream community, it's like, oh, it's a bit like grosser than breast because breast is very clean. Yeah, it's not as dark.
Yeah.
And it's very like palatable. But for cooking purposes, if you ask a chef,
Chicken thigh
they'll
is
say
so
chicken
good.
thigh because it retains the moisture. But yeah, I was surprised that chicken thighs were more expensive than breast. As myself. And the other thing about chicken in Coles or supermarkets is that you can buy a rotisserie chicken for $10. And I just think, like, I'm not sticking up for chickens here, but I think they deserve some sort of a voice, because if someone put a $10 price tag on your life, which included seasoning and labor, for $10, I would be very annoyed with that.
If it was
and you've already had a shitty life.
Yeah. I mean, the rotisserie chickens at our supermarket like $16 now. So they're and that, even if you took into account New Zealand dollar versus Oz dollar, I still think it's clearly more expensive here. So maybe they're getting more for
$16 is a reasonable price. I think they should be more expensive. Just
there we
out
go.
Of like
Michael advocating for increasing inability for the lower class to be able to feed themselves good food. Welcome to Deep Thought, everybody. This is a podcast in which we take on the issues of the day with a light but sometimes in-depth flavour that hopefully leads to societal change. Sitting through the internet with me this week, Michael.
Hi.
Okay, you seemed like you didn't recognise your own name, and my name is Nick. Hi, Nick. Hi.
You didn't do any secret recordings at the start of this, did you?
No, I think this one's probably all that we need. Lot of good feedback for Laura last week. A lot of applause coming in. A lot of people saying to chim for her. You know, like bring in Laura, get rid of Michael.
So you got my emails.
A lot of enthusiasm, and also, to be fair, a lot saying just give Laura the podcast and both of you go away. So yeah, a little bit of all of the above, but nice to have her on.
She was great. Yeah, it was great. I hope this one's a bit lighter. I think I got some feedback as well that it wasn't with regards to that podcast, that particular episode, but someone told me that no one really gives a shit what we think about serious issues, and that we get a bit too up our own ass about it.
Wow.
So
that person is wrong. So we can just disregard that. Speaking of,
but let's jump straight into an abortion.
The abortion debate.
Yeah.
Pretty intense day.
Pretty intense. You got any yay or nay on the abortion? I don't know if you had specific things lined up for this week in terms of discussion. Got some lighter seggies at the end.
Yeah. I don't know where to get into then. If did you want to talk abortion thing at all? It's pretty fucked, right?
Well, yeah. Let's just touch. I have a couple of questions for you on that, or some things to say, I guess. So today is whatever the day is. It doesn't matter.
25th.
So the Supreme Court in the US has ruled to overturn the Roe versus Wade case.
Yeah.
You might have to paint this up for me, Nick, because I'm not sure I'm across heaps of it.
Paint this up?
I don't know. Is that an expression?
I don't think so. You might have to paint this up.
Fill in the holes.
Okay.
Fill in the holes might be better.
Sure.
But effectively meaning that...
So in the 1970s, abortion was
just cut me off then,
deemed a constitutional right in America, and it was decided in a Supreme Court decision which took it out of the control of the states to legislate. And since then, there has been a conservative movement that has held that was wrongly decided, and that they didn't like the access to abortion that had been granted as a result, and has campaigned to overturn it. And the way that you overturn it is by getting a court case, appealing it all the way to the Supreme Court, and then having the Supreme Court decide to take it because they have something legally they want to resolve. With new conservative justices on the court and a case that came up through the appellate court system, they finally had the opportunity to make a new statement about the law and basically undid the precedent that the Supreme Court had set 50 years ago, and have now returned the right to the states to legislate about abortion and removed it as a constitutional right. So, in the immediate aftermath, some of the conservative states of America have now drafted or indeed enacted legislation to make it impossible to have an abortion in that state.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So just first of all, I just want to clarify anything that I'm about to say with I am pro-choice. The abortion debate. So the abortion debate, I feel like, doesn't exist in culture, in society. And it seems to me that the two opposing sides are having different arguments entirely. And we only talk about people being for it, conservatives, people being against abortion, conservatives, or people being for it, which is basically everyone else. And I just feel like the conservatives are arguing that abortion should be illegal because they believe that you're killing a human life. And people who are for it, their argument is that they don't believe that it is a human life yet. And I just feel like that debate, that conversation isn't there. It's just kind of assumed that everyone is kind of on the same page. But I just don't think that, I don't see much of that conversation happening. It's like either you're for it or against it. And because they are arguing, they're kind of arguing over the top of each other and they're arguing different things. I just feel like it's like a...
I don't understand how they're arguing different things.
So people who are pro-choice arguing that, will argue that life starts at, when you're born or at a certain number of weeks after conception. And people who are arguing against abortion arguing that life begins at conception. Right?
Yeah.
So I just don't think that there is a fundamental disagreement there.
Yeah, that's why they're arguing with each other. I don't understand your point.
There isn't an argument. There's no argument or no conversation. It is
what do you
just...
mean? I don't get it. What do you mean?
It just means
there's no latitude to talk it out.
Yes. No one's listening to each other.
Well, how are you... What conversation do you want them to have?
I just feel like that both sides should be listening to each other, because it's not like this is a clear. People just act like it's a clear-cut issue where it's not. It's actually it's a lot more complicated than people, I think, give it credit for.
Which issue? The idea of the right to have an abortion, or the idea of at what point a human being becomes alive?
Yes, well, I guess it's the same thing.
It's not the same thing, because there are many other different arguments for abortion, which are not about this is not a human that I'm disposing of. The many arguments for abortion will acknowledge that the child is alive, but still believe it's a medical necessity if it harms the health of the mother to carry it to term, if it risks their life, if it is financially impossible, if the baby is a result of a rape or incest. There are many other arguments that are pro-choice, and the specific phrasing there is deliberate. It's not pro-life, anti-life. It's pro-life, pro-choice, and the choice is the important thing. It's whether or not a woman wants to have that procedure, being up to her and her own individual circumstances, her own religious beliefs, her own designation of when a life begins, her own financial circumstances, and anything else around it. That it is not the state that gets to decide for her that she can or can't have it. It is up to her. So the argument as to whether or not the life starts at week X or, at birth or at conception is just one small part of why a pro-choice person might want that right enshrined.
Yes, but but conservatives feel that you are killing babies. They think babies are being murdered. I mean, it's a Louis C.K. bit, but he goes into, what are they meant to do if they think that babies are being murdered? Like, they believe that babies are being murdered. What are they meant to do?
Well, they're only representing 20% of the population. So that you have to either accept that you live in a society which is run as a democracy, which holds that majority opinions and, popular sentiment and desire for the way they want the world to work, sometimes means that you don't always get the things that you want, and that you have to live with people whose morals you disagree with.
What's this 20%?
The generalized support for abortion protection and like pro-life views, I believe, is something around 2/3 to 3/4 of America.
Right. Interesting.
So it is very much not a significance, the wrong word, but it's very much a smaller section of America that believes to this degree that they're killing babies, if that's the thing. And some of it is, of course, got this whole religious aspect to it, but other parts of it as well are like there is a little bit, I think, of a identity politics kind of thing, where a conservative viewpoint sometimes feels like it's held because the results of it are detrimental to their political opponents, and the people that are really affected by a decision like this are poor people of color, people who don't have a senator husband who can fly to a different state and still get the abortion if he needs it. I think some of it has to be seen through the triggering snowflakes kind of conservative ideology, where part of it, you amplify that belief on the right because it gets such a reaction from the left. Like, for as much as you might believe
Right.
it sincerely, or it might come from a religious place or whatever, there is a partisan sort of team aspect to it as well, where it's like a feedback loop, and you become more and more committed to a position because it riles up the other side.
Sure. And yeah, it is steeped in religiosity. Like, this, as far as I can tell, it purely comes from a religious or a Christian interpretation of biblical text.
Yeah, it's a very retrograde position as well. Like, that's 80 years ago, when the wife was the person subjugated at home looking after the kids, and the man got to decide what happened for the family and when they had children and that sort of thing. There's a very sort of American housewife kind of old-timey viewpoint ascribed to it, where a woman shouldn't get the right to choose for herself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's America is such a mishmash, and like so topsy turvy in its values. It's hard to keep up with. I saw a tweet earlier today that said something along the lines of it's funny that the people who are calling for abortion to be illegal to protect the lives of babies won't do anything about gun laws that kill children. And then on top of that, there's like, I know it's like on another level, but the marijuana laws like passing through to make it. I mean, they in some ways that seems progressive, but their gun laws and this new abortion fiasco is, it's just weird.
Well,
They're a weird
marijuana
place.
legalization in the US is still state by state. So at a federal level, that's not been permitted.
Sure.
So it
Sure.
isn't something you can generalize it
Generally.
as a countrywide thing. But you're right, like the hypocrisy's there, and I'm not saying anything original here, but as you say, like they care about the unborn child more than they care about an actual living kid who's been gunned down in a school, or the mother who needs healthcare, and they don't think of healthcare as an essential right over there. So you've got this very like underfunded, over expensive patchwork of healthcare services and things, no access to maternity support.
Mm.
What for? Like, yeah, huge amounts of the population struggle to get the care they need or the midwives they need and all that kind of stuff. So it's all this. That's as you say, where the facade comes down, because if you were actually pro-life, that there would be a consistency to all of it, but there isn't.
Yeah. And it's weird, like, to be in a way. It's like weird because I've had this argument countless times with people in my family who hold religious values, that if you're going to say that life begins at conception, it kind of follows that you should value your like individual sperm to like a similar level.
Yeah.
Like every sperm is a
Yeah.
potential life.
Mathematically, one sperm equals 0.5 of a life. So, if there's a million sperm in your jizz, that's 500,000 babies that you're, flushing down the toilet.
Yeah, and it's like this magical God, is in the bedroom kind of view. Like God is responsible for any life, and he's made a conscious choice to put the egg and the sperm together. So we should respect God's, magical, tool making or whatever it is.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a weird time. Weird time to be an American.
I think that for as much as this is a conservative win, I think it is also very clearly a liberal loss. Like, it is only because of an ineffectual leadership on the left over there, a lack of movement to pass any kind of big picture legalization stuff, that to do the necessary things to abolish the filibuster, to expand the Supreme Court, which has happened throughout history. Like a resistance to do any of this out of some ancient, irrelevant honor system where we'll treat the other side like we're still playing the same game, and they're respectable and playing by the rules, so we will too, is just a farce at this point, because the only reason that this happened was because they withheld a Supreme Court seat when Obama was still in office. They forced one of the or pressured one of the justices to retire in Trump's term, had two others that came through, and it's all a president that was not one with a majority vote in the first place. So, like, the whole architecture of it is weighted towards this political imbalance, where one team is playing fucking for keeps. They will do anything and everything to get their political way, and the other one is still sort of dancing along, being like, well, we've got to, maintain order, and we've got to do things the right way, and I really want this to be, bipartisan. And in the meanwhile, like, literally every right on the, legal landscape is being diminished, removed, or, overwritten. So I like, if I was in America right now, I would feel so fucking angry at the Democrats that I voted into office, because they haven't fucking done anything.
Sure. America is a unique place in the sense that they have very clear divisions of how their civilians see the world. They have red states and blue states, and they're very defined. They have the Bible Belt. They have the East Coast and the West Coast, being liberal. And I'm not sure if that exists like anywhere in the same way anywhere else in the world. So they're unique for that reason. And also, I wonder sometimes if we're seeing the demise of America happening before our eyes. They were considered, like, when I was growing up, like, they were just like America was Team America. They were the best. They were the world leaders.
The richest
And now
country in the world, like
richest country in the world, the American dream, all
the
that bullshit.
flagship of, Western democracy.
And I wonder if that was like largely due to, the fact that they made movies. But with all this stuff, this kind of regression that seems to be happening politically and ethically to some level, and the hypocrisy of their invasion of Iraq and them fucking up Afghanistan and stuff, like it seems like the world has lost confidence in their ability to be a world leading country.
I think that's definitely true.
And a world leading superpower. But first of all, do we need superpower countries? And is that a concept that will prevail, do you think, in the future?
Do we need superpowers? It's a very interesting question. I think.
Who are the superpowers? There's China, Russia, India, America, right?
I mean, India is population wise and economics wise very influential. But is it a superpower in the sense that it controls international politics and conversations? I'm not sure. In terms of do we need them? No, perhaps not. But I think that they are inevitable if there is a aggregation of resources, or I think if
it's about alliance, isn't it? It's about protection for the other small countries.
Well, the importance of America as a superpower was that it had the economic might, the political respect, and the military firepower to deter the dictatorships and quote unquote democracies of China and Russia, which, if unchecked or did not have an opposing element, could theoretically expand their reach and their impact beyond their borders. So I think America had a really important role there. I think the EU, to a certain extent, does represent that, but I don't think you can call it the same individual impact when it's an aggregate like that, when you're relying on a super government, if you like, versus one place led by one person. And I think when you do talk about the decline of America, which I think is sort of impossible to avoid, it's impossible to really look at America and think, yeah, things are getting better, right? Like, when you look at it through that lens of the past 5, 10, 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
I think that you have to see hints of a long-term successful Cold War from the other superpowers, from Russia playing this technological game and infiltrating and subverting our own technologies against us to seed political division, to China for building this economic, just incredible engine to which so many other countries in the world are now reliant on for their own economy, exports and shipping and trade and technology. Like all the iPhones are built in China. Like all that kind of stuff has now become reliant on them. And so they have never ceased trying to expand, but the means by which they've been doing it has changed to outright war. And now America is so factional and devolved to infighting and political gridlock that now you can see something like Russia happen, where Russia's like, okay, I reckon we can do a war now, and they have the confidence to go out and actually give it a crack. I don't know that would have happened if America was still a superpower.
But we're potentially also witnessing the fall of Russia as well. Like, maybe not the fall of Russia, but the world has turned its back on
Yeah.
Russia
Yeah.
over the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
So does that just leave China? And also, what does that mean for us if China becomes like this superpower? And sub question, why does anyone care? Like, why does anyone in government care about being a superpower?
As in, why would
What's
American government want to be a superpower? Or why does Australia
why?
care who is a superpower in the world?
No, why would the individuals in government? Because we always talk about like the government or these countries becoming superpowers, but they are run by individual people. Why do these people care? Like, I don't get it.
But I don't think
Like,
that they're
why?
going, oh, off to work today, got a little bit of superpowering to do. I
I think
don't.
they do.
Okay. Maybe
I
that's
think they
where we
do.
disagree.
But they're like putting measures in place for, years down the track for, China to, take over the world. I
Are you
mean,
talking
just
in the
chill out,
lens
China.
of Chinese government officials? Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking
Yeah.
about America? I
I'm
mean,
talking about
China.
anyone
China's an
in
interesting
government.
one because does have China fundamentally disagrees with the idea of Western democracy, right? So in an ideal
Mm.
world, they do not want uh they would like their version of government and the rights that they allow their citizens to have to be more universally held because every time that the Western world allows democratic votes and allows political action and that kind of thing. It threatens the power structures that they have. So
Mm.
it is in their long term interests to see democracy fail to bolster their own arguments for why the status quo there should be maintained or expanded.
Yeah. I just don't understand. I just don't understand why they care about any of that. Like, I understand like the people at the top wanting to maintain their power and their assets and wealth. But like, well, I don't know, wouldn't you just be happier if everyone in your country was happier? I guess it wouldn't be the engine that it is today.
I
And
think that
in a
the
weird
truth
way,
is that people in China are happy. That they
no, they're not. They're not. No, no one in China's happy.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, I mean, they see the world differently. They see the world as there's no less emphasis on the individual,
Yeah.
and it's more about the hive. They work like bees. It's about the collective, which maybe who are we to say that that's wrong? I mean, it just depends what your goal is. If your goal is
Well, and
to,
it depends on your definition of human rights, right? Like if you believe, not sort of to weave religion back into it all again, but if you believe that you get one life and that this is the only shot you get at experiencing anything and that you ought to have
yeah,
control over what you want to do you know, to the best of your ability and the circumstances of your birth and area and all that sort of thing, then an impingement on those rights is immoral, right? It prevents you from making the most of your freedoms.
yeah, I think you're totally right. Religion is at the heart of a lot of this, but China is a secular country for the most
I
part, is
don't
it
mean
not?
that literally. I mean in terms of an atheistic thought or a moralistic thought. I don't mean necessarily
Mm,
religion, but just the idea of an individual freedom, right? And if you're
mm.
holding that it is a precious thing to be alive and to get to do a limited subset of what you could due to a government's imposition, that's an impingement on your freedoms.
Yeah. God, that just really sucks, man. Like, I don't know. It bums me out to think about it, to be honest, because people's yeah, these are people's lives. These are people's one shot at consciousness for 70, 80 years, and because of someone else, they just get that shot ruined. They just get it wasted.
Well, that's the tragedy at the heart of the abortion thing. Again, to bring it full circle, is that, if you're a 16-year-old and you make a mistake, or worse, someone impregnates you against your will or anything like that, and you don't have the ability to then have a morning after pill, or get an abortion when you realize you're pregnant, then your entire life goes off on this other trajectory where now you are 16-year-old with a kid that you have to raise. There's no support network potentially, so then you're out of school and you have to work as soon as you can, and it just throws everything off. Like, it is if you even survive it. Like, one of the horrible things as well is the ectopic pregnancies, which can kill the mother. And even for those reasons, even if it's for the health of the mother, abortions are being banned. And so it is literally going to kill like 1 in 50 women who medically require it to survive. And so that's just literally, taking away so much freedom, completely ruining, changing lives irrevocably.
Is the morning after pill also off the table with this?
I don't think so. I think that's a separate thing. I think it is talking about medical abortions. So once there is a designated pregnancy.
It's so arbitrary, isn't it? Like, it just feels for something so important. It feels like there's a lot of arbitration.
One of the other decisions today from one of the justices talked about exploring further and revisiting cases that allowed same-sex marriage, like Obergefell, and talking about contraception and talking about these kind of things. So it is definitely now on the table that those kind of rights and privileges could also be struck off.
God
totally plausible. So then you are talking about no more morning after pills, no more contraception. Like, it's fucking crazy.
And no more gay people.
And no more gays.
But that's part of the danger with this stuff, obviously, is that you don't. It's like with drugs.
I know exactly what you're going to talk about here. Let me finish your sentence. The danger that they're getting into here is that pregnancy becomes so untenable for so many young people, such a dangerous thing to consider, that everyone has to turn gay. And ultimately, they end up sowing a gay republic where, by choosing to be gay, 80% of the population no longer has kids at all and avoids pregnancy, and they usher in that gay agenda that they'd been so, against for so long. So maybe there's a silver lining.
Such a good point. What I was going to say is that you can't stop this stuff from happening. Like with drugs, if you make it illegal, you just drive it underground, and that's when it gets dangerous. I mean, it feels like so much of the population in at least in Western countries feels this way, and yet we cannot seem to push through to this more progressive way of thinking with regards to drugs and abortions and other things.
But I think that the majority does agree that, right? Like, this is a question of minority control of our legal systems and our political systems, right? Because most people support the legalization of weed. Most people support the right to an abortion. All of this stuff. It's about a minority trying to hold on to a power that it should rightfully have ceded by now.
But that's the thing. We will eventually get there, because there's no other way. We will eventually arrive at a place where we realize that this stuff is it's more important to value the lives of women, but it's just like it's just held up. It's
but I don't think that you can guarantee.
All you do is putting obstacles. I mean, given an infinite amount of time,
sure, but
we have to go there.
But if in the meantime a conservative movement controls the courts, removes like voting rights so that some people are ineligible, makes it impossible for minorities to have their voice heard, gerrymanders the districts so that they can hold on to power beyond that, and then passes or like causes a gridlock in Congress that makes it impossible to pass legislation to undo things, you can very legitimately end up not having a future in which it becomes attainable. Like you can slip into like a tyranny in that way. If
Yes.
it's and I'm not saying this is entirely analogous, but if someone like Putin gets into power through a fairly, I mean, very loose words here, democratic means, but then spends 20 years removing any other checks and balances against the power, you end up in a position where it's no longer attainable to undo that. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing here, but there is a risk that it might actually not become possible to overturn some of this stuff unless immediate changes are made.
Yeah. Well, what do we do?
I don't know. Nancy Pelosi sent out a fundraising email being like, you gotta make sure to get out and vote. And it's like, bitch, you're already in power. You're in the majority. Fucking do something. What is, how? Oh, very frustrating.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something more fun. I actually just realized here that I have a wonderful segue.
Sorry, your segue is going to be from abortion to something else?
Yes, correct.
Can't wait to hear this.
Alrighty, let's get into some science news.
It's that time. Time for science news.
Okay, good vibes. Here we go. I'm sensing some skepticism here, Michael, that I can lighten the mood after our abortion discussion with a relevant scientific bit of information. And to that I say, pah! And how dare you impugn my ability? Because here we have...
I'm not skeptical, I'm just
enthusiastic.
I'm excited to see how you do it, yeah.
An article here from the Spin-Off, a New Zealand publication, entitled, "We Need to Talk About How Frogs Used to Be Pregnancy Tests."
Brilliant.
As recently as the 1970s, pregnancy testing involved sending pee away to be injected into a live frog.
Pee-pee.
Urine. The pee.
Urine.
The pee. The yellow gold.
You're in trouble, mate.
There we go. Our modern testing methods are pee on a stick, knowing within minutes after drooling into a vial or something whether you're pregnant or you have COVID or you're on MDMA. But it hasn't always been so cute and convenient. One of the most popular methods used to diagnose pregnancy over 50 years ago was by injecting a local frog with some wee. This was well documented around the world in the late 1920s and early 1930s. A British scientist named Lancelot Hogben began experimenting with injecting hormones into frogs to see what happened. The Hogben test, as it came to be known through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, involved injecting a urine sample under the skin of a South African clawed frog. Other types of frogs worked as well. Within 12 hours, the frog would yield a result. If the urine contained HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin, nailed it, a hormone excreted in urine during pregnancy, the frog would begin to spawn. The Hogben test was the most prolific form of pregnancy testing until at least the early 1970s in Aotearoa, New Zealand. The accuracy rate of the frogs was 12% positive the first week after the last missed period, 58% positive after the second week, and 93% accuracy after the third week from the last missed period. There were frog dealers that would sell African clawed frogs, but local frogs were a good substitute. So When frog supplies ran short, local school kids were encouraged to go on frog catching expeditions and could be paid as much as 2 shillings and sixpence per frog. Then they had to, of course, store the frogs. They needed to, unlike the mice and rabbits that were being used as test animals and other things, the frogs actually survived the testing process and could be reused. So then they had to like house these frogs and keep them alive so you could keep testing for pregnancy.
Urine frogs.
But yeah, there's a lot more interesting stuff here. I've put the link to the spin-off article in the chapter title of this podcast, so please go have a read. But what do you think of that? Using frogs to know if you're pregnant.
I mean, it sucks to be the frog, but how do they find that out? Like,
science used to be just, what if we did this and then see what happened?
What if, and hear me out, what if we used frogs? That's why you never trust a guy named Lancelot. If you name your kid Lancelot, he's going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
He's going to be a freak, and he's going to be antisocial.
Here's the, what's the word? Devil's advocate?
Devil's anal?
Yeah, here's the devil's advocate position here. Currently, I don't know how often you're doing rat tests or pregnancy tests. A lot of wasted plastic going straight in the bin. Frogs are a greener alternative. There's no wrapping.
Literally.
Yeah. There's no wrapping. You're not throwing any plastics into the ecosystem. Yes, you're taking some of the ecosystem out of the ecosystem, but
Sure, Nick. Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about makeup testing on monkeys? Do you feel good about that as well?
Yeah, I love it.
Very green.
I think it actually like really lifts their.
Are you just imagining a monkey with like heaps of
with
makeup
lots
on?
of makeup? Yeah, with a very
it's really
bright
cute.
eyeshadow.
It is really cute.
Yeah.
Peter never talks about that.
They never.
Do they?
They
They never talk about how fucking adorable those monkeys look.
Those monkeys
With
could get it.
eyeliner and
Yeah.
very pretty monkeys.
Snip that one out for later use.
Yeah, it was well segued, Nick. Well segued. No Laura, but
If you've enjoyed this kind of thing, well, I don't know exactly how to
Sucks
take
to
that
be
because it's
you.
such a strange thing to take enjoyment from. But look, I appreciate it all the same. You can find more episodes in our podcast feed, and you can get in touch with us with so many ways. You can send us an email to deepthought@gmail.com. You can head to our Facebooks or our Instagrams. You can go to Spotify and listen to our songs. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can follow us on Twitter for notifications when episodes go up. You can do everything that makes you feel good in this world, so long as it doesn't infringe on the human rights of others.
there's no way anyone enjoyed us talking about abortion for 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's what you get with this podcast.
That's what you get. Things that you don't want to listen to.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do a thing?
Yeah, I do have a mailbag. Again, I feel like I'm segueing to myself, but I wonder if we should jump into the mailbag because I just talked about it.
Yeah, sure, Nick. Let's just do everything you want to do.
Great. Let's do a mailbag.
Mailbag, it's the weekly mailbag. Deep Thoughts mailbag.
All right. As you know, just from history, we only tend to do a mailbag when there's been mail in the mailbag. But let's have a look. Oh, look, there's an email. This one comes in from a Deep Thought listener, Casper, with the subject level, latest ep. Hello, world. Long-time listener, long-time contributor, number one fan, only fan, silent partner, trainee pilot. Big descriptor. Firstly, congratulations on the pod. I know the last 10 years or whatever kind of been easy for you two, especially Nick. So congratulations for not killing each other, or worse, the vibe. Well, we did kill the vibe.
Unnecessary swipe at me there.
Yeah. Secondly, when did Michael get so woke? I leave for like 2 months and he's having reasonable discussions and acknowledging bias. It's almost like he was right-wing just to rile me up.
It kind of was.
Thirdly, and this is a throwback, when I left Australia, Michael started to tell the story of our teary farewell on the pod, and then you both started talking about rising petrol prices. Forgot to write in at the time, so I'm doing it now. The insult of being eclipsed, nay replaced by late-stage capitalism. Well, if you don't have anything interesting to say about rising petrol prices, then you shouldn't be doing a podcast. And I'm glad to say that we we steered into it, and I think that our viewers appreciated it.
I don't remember that conversation.
Neither do
I
I.
will say, just to give Casper his day in the sun, because I know he's probably lonely over there and desperate for attention. When Casper and I said goodbye, like, Casper's are very different. When he and I said goodbye to each other, I turned into a big pile of shit. I just cried. I wept.
I didn't know how to interpret that sentence. I turned into a big pile of shit. It's very difficult to understand what you're sort of getting at there emotionally. But yeah.
Oh, well, I was. And it would have been very weird because we went out for a beer and we were just like goofing around for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. So people around us would have just seen us just like being loud and obnoxious and being
Couple
silly.
of lads on
and
the
then,
town.
And then all of a sudden we're both crying and hugging. Like it must have been a very weird situation.
Oh, that's cute.
It was cute. But yeah, those petrol prices, they're insane.
They're insane right now. I don't know what it's like over there, but right now it's like $2.92.
That's so much.
It's so much.
In the States, it's like $5.
Is that right? Well, that's for a gallon though, so I don't know how that.
Oh, right.
I don't know how to translate that. I was driving down Barbados today, and Barbados Street sort of goes parallel to Fitzgerald. But the McEwen there, it was like $2.92. And then around the corner on Stanmore, $2.71. And I was thinking, what the fuck are you doing? Because there were people filling up there, and you could drive 1 more minute around the corner and get to like a 20 cents a litre saving.
Yep. Petrol prices at $2 a litre. That's like the same price as lettuce. Brought back lettuce.
You did bring back lettuce. You were a Vespa driver for a while.
Yeah.
Would you ever go back to a scooter? Is that more economical?
It would really suit my needs here in the inner city, Melbourne. I did enjoy. It wasn't really a Vespa. I thought I was like, what's his name in Breakfast at Tiffany's, or what is it, Italian Holiday? Gregory Peck. But in reality, I just looked like a dickhead with a giant helmet that was double XL on my.
You're a big-headed man.
I'm a small-headed man. I'm an XS.
You're an XS?
I'm an XS, and I would use my dad's helmet, which is a double XL. So
okay, that might have been the reason.
Yeah, I got knocked around, not by falling off the bike, but just the helmet wobbling and giving me concussion because it was too loose.
You know, the thing that would always put me off a motorcycle or a Vespa or something like that is not having music. It's not like you can't really put earphones in. It's not safe. But you don't have that cabin anyway to sort of muffle the road noise of whatever anyway. So like so much of what makes a drive sort of palatable to me is being able to listen to music or put on a podcast or something.
Yeah, but speaking on behalf of all motorcyclists, the wind becomes your music, and the breeze is your podcast. So you don't need it. What you lose in a car with the audio options, you gain in nature.
So are you singing along to the breeze? Like, are you like, oh, that's an F, that's an F. La 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 la.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, the breeze sings with you sometimes.
Oh, that's deep.
As well.
Oh, that's deep.
So harmonies.
Yeah. Well.
Harmonies with the air.
Little. I just want to check in with a few sort of life things, just briefly. I was wondering if you'd started reading How to Be Perfect yet. Have you cracked that book?
I've read 10 pages.
That is all you need. You've done. What did you think?
No, I'm enjoying it very much so far. I'm currently reading 3 books at the moment.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
So, it's on the rotation, but yeah, I will continue to read that. Thank you.
I want to give a tiny little bit of a plug for myself as well. This coming Thursday in New Zealand, 30th of June, Good Grief Season 2 comes out on TVNZ+. So, After 18 months, we have a second season about to hit screens over here. And if you are internationally listening, if you're in Australia and US, UK, Canada, please stay tuned because it will be coming there soon too. But yes, please, if you've enjoyed that first season, and I heard from many of you that you did, thank you. And in New Zealand, please check us out. June 30, TVNZ Plus. 6 25-minute episodes, longer episodes, more good stuff coming.
More bang for your buck.
More bang for your book.
When's it coming to Oz?
I don't have a date for you just yet, but I'm hoping it won't be too far behind.
Okay, so just not going to get an advanced screening?
I haven't even seen the final episodes. The last I heard, we were still in post-production, so it is going to be very, very close to the wire. But theoretically, in 5 days, it will be out, and I look forward to seeing them.
All right, I'll get a VPN.
Yeah, you could. You absolutely could. And then watch it again on SBS if it appears there later.
Of course.
And on that note, just very briefly, I'll also say if you're on TVNZ Plus, please check out One Way Out, which was an escape room reality show series that I designed all the puzzles for. It's like teams of people going through these escape rooms, being eliminated, working their way through 3 different rooms. There's this fun overarching narrative. It was really fun to work on, and it's like 10-minute episodes, so you can burn through this shit so easily. That's on TVNZ Plus too. If you like escape rooms or a bit of fun, please watch it. I don't know if that'll end up internationally, but if you're local, give it a listen. What do you got on your piece of paper there?
I have a Michael's Facts.
Love it.
Cool.
I'm contractually required to say that I love it, even though we have previously established that this was a stolen segment, and you've never apologized.
Never will. Not my style.
Play the music.
Michael's Facts, Michael's Facts, Facts Machine, oh here's a bonus fact. If you've got knowledge, well look it up, 'cause Michael's Facts are here to stay, yeah.
So this segment, just to recap, is basically just things that I have wondered about and then Googled. Nothing more, nothing less.
I mean, arguably less, but continue.
Maybe less, but definitely not
Nothing,
more.
nothing more, possibly less.
So, have you ever wondered why? I mean, okay, so first of all, eggs. Eggs. Big theme, big running theme on this podcast.
It's
We're obsessed
grown.
with eggs.
Yeah.
We are obsessed with eggs. This might as well be called the Egg Show.
I really thought you were going with eggheads, but go on. Yeah.
So I'm always thinking about eggs. And the other day I was wondering, why are eggs a breakfast food? Why are they so associated with breakfast? You ever thought about that, Nick?
That's wild. That's yeah. I mean, I suppose you could have like a frittata or something, or a quiche for dinner. That's sort of eggy, isn't it?
Yeah, you can.
But you're right. It is very heavily morning.
It is. So I'll tell you why that is.
Please.
So eggs naturally became a breakfast staple because chickens and most other birds lay their eggs in the morning. And it made sense for farmers to eat the eggs at their freshest. So back in olden times,
Yeah.
eggs were around, but people didn't actually used to eat breakfast that much. What they would do is they usually, especially in Europe, they would eat 2 meals a day. They'd eat lunch and dinner, and they'd save breakfast for the elderly and infants and laborers.
Right.
So eggs became a breakfast food because they were so ubiquitous, but they were also such a good source of protein that would sustain you throughout the day. And it was also a very cheap alternative for meat.
Yeah, right.
So eggs just kind of waddled their way into becoming something you ate in the morning.
Because that's when they're laid.
Because that's where the eggs were laid.
Oh, that's interesting.
Anyway.
How many
Short one,
eggs?
'cause
How many eggs do you go for when you're like, let's say you're poaching or you're scrambling? How many eggs are you putting in a pan for yourself?
If I'm doing a scrambled egg, probably 3, or an omelette, 3.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, 3 minimum. Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm more of a boiled egg eater.
but you'd have just the one.
Yeah, maybe 2. If I'm getting ramen, I'm always getting extra boiled egg.
You do want an extra egg, yeah. But they often, well, it depends where you go. Sometimes you only get half an egg anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess kept that one short because the last time I just rambled like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, there was a lot of popcorn, but that was interesting.
Cool. What else? What else? So I watched. This is just. I don't know what this is, but I watched Hereditary last night. I rewatched Hereditary. Remember that movie?
The horror movie, yeah.
A horror movie. I don't get scared a lot in movies, but that movie is so like messed up. Horror movies don't really do it for me anymore. They don't get me off. But on the back of this movie, I had this terrifying dream that a giant orangutan with horns.
Was that in
with
the movie?
Horns? No. It was just. I think it was the embodiment of grotesqueness.
Okay.
For my dreams.
You're really
purposes.
reading into that, yeah.
Well, it was just like this monster, which I've never dreamed about a monster. I mean, I'm not a child. And it was a giant orangutan with horns, and it just didn't like my attitude, and it could talk, and it said, "I don't like you," and I was like, "Oh, I've done nothing to you," and it was like, "Just get out of my face." And I had literally done nothing to this orangutan. He just didn't like the cut of my jib. Got any?
Is this interesting?
I just wanted to tell you about my dream.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't really. I mean, I can't really.
You can't say anything.
I can't jump into. There's nothing. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. Orangutans are not generally like spooky monsters.
They're not. No. Did I mention it had horns?
It had horns. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's.
It's kind of like a minotaur kind of vibe.
Sure. Yeah, it's not really. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great in terms of a conversation starter.
So you got no thoughts on that whatsoever?
No, not really. Oh, how do you feel now?
Yeah, I guess it's dead air. Well, at least I got it off my chest.
I don't know that it'll make the cut.
No, definitely don't include. Please don't include that. It's embarrassing.
I do have one question. I do have one question for you. This is, classically, this podcast had big moral conundrums at the heart of it. Like it was a philosophical thing. It was a real sort of heady kind of discussion, and that over the various years as we solved all the philosophical problems, we drifted into politics and science and that kind of stuff. But I got a real classic philosophical question. If you went to a masseuse and you booked for a 1-hour appointment, would you expect 1 hour on the table of a massage, or 1 hour walk in, sit down, fill out the form? What would you like today? How are you doing? Okay, that's it for today. Get up, get dressed. All right, please place your credit card here. Out the door, ding. 60 minutes.
Oh, the first one.
I think that's a very reasonable position to take. If you book a 1 hour massage, you get 1 hour of massage. Well, I went to a masseuse and I got a 45-minute massage. And at the end, when I was polite and I got dressed and I looked at the clock and I said, "Oh, I was, just a little surprised. It felt quite short." And she said, "Well, you had a 1 hour appointment. And so that's been 1 hour. We started at 5:15. It's now 6:15. Off you go." And I said, oh, well, yeah, I guess I would have thought that if you book for a 1 hour, that it meant an hour of massage. And that any of the other stuff, the extraneous stuff around it, that fits in outside of that time. And she got so shirty with me.
No.
She was so not having it. She was like, well, if you went to a lawyer's office and you had an hour appointment, would you expect them to do all that stuff outside? I was like, it's not a fucking lawyer. It's not.
Wow.
And I was like, I looked at the website and I was like, it says 1 hour massage, $90 or whatever. And she was like, yeah,
It doesn't
1
say
hour.
1 hour massage inclusive of admin.
No, it was 1 hour massage. And I still paid. I didn't lie back down on the bed and say, do more, I would just like constructive feedback.
Relax me.
This is, I think, a bit misleading. And she's like, well, yeah, a handful of other people have said that to me. I was like, well, then fucking change your website. Just put it on there, 1 hour appointment inclusive of everything, You will not get 1 hour of massage when you book your 1 hour massage appointment. Oh,
Why would she volunteer that other people
I
have
don't
said
know.
that to her?
I don't know.
What an idiot.
And then she
No,
later
that's
tried
not
to
okay.
go backwards on it. And I was like, well, if other people have said this to you, like, it's not a hard thing to fix, to make clear. If you want to run your practice such that 1 hour includes everything, you have to be out the door after that time, fine. But just tell people up front. It's very easy to resolve that ambiguity. Don't act surprised if someone comes in expecting it for 1 hour. And she's like, well, it says 1 hour appointment. It's like, well, yes, exactly. I don't know. Oh, it was so infuriating.
Well, good on you for confronting that, because I would have never have done that.
Do you want to know the awkward thing, though? So this was...
You went back in and got a happy ending.
I got a happy ending. Well, this was after the happy ending. No, the awkward thing was this is a substitute for my normal place. My normal masseuse had COVID, sadly. And so I needed a massage. And I looked around and I found one literally the street behind me. Like the exact other side of the block. And in fact, when I came in and we were talking at the start, I was like, oh, I just live over, over on the other side. And she was like, oh, are you in the red house? And I was like, yep. Did you have people on the roof yesterday? I was like,
Oh.
Yeah, actually, yeah. And she's like, yeah. I looked straight back onto you. So after this awkward encounter, every time I go out into my backyard and look out across at the other block, I'm like, she's in there. She's in there.
Oh my God.
She's watching me.
Oh God. No, I don't like that one bit.
There's your ghost story.
Are you going to go back?
I might move.
Move.
Houses.
I think move.
Yeah.
Move houses. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't live there anymore.
I don't think so.
No. I didn't know you had a roof.
Yeah, we got roof now.
I can't believe you've got a roof. That's pretty fancy.
Yeah. Keeps the water off. Quite handy.
But you have people on the roof.
What?
Didn't she say you had people on the roof?
Yeah. Workers.
Oh, I thought you were hosting.
No, we don't have like a rooftop
Party
area.
Right.
Yeah. No.
The strangest thing about that was that you had like a rooftop party.
Yeah. Well,
That's not the Nick I know.
Yeah.